listening to The Voice, 17104.com.
Hello and welcome. I'd like to invite you to just enjoy the experience that we're about to encounter. I'd like to introduce to you a man of a very humble beginning, a man that was able to overcome the horrific misclassification of special education. A caring man, a man that will encourage you because he's been there and done that. And I'd like to encourage you to keep an open mind and be empowered to change your life. I'd like to present to you a man of men, Richard Utley. Richard Utley.
Welcome to Did You Know? Podcast, your host, Richard Utley, dedicated to the African American viewers. The program is aimed to celebrate African American culture and deal with the real and relevant topics that impact the everyday lives of the African American community through frank and insightful dialogue with local and national influencers. Every day, there is another horrible, discouraging news story, directly or indirectly impacting African Americans. But we need to look at the shining stars in the galaxy of Black America. It is time to tell our story.
Good evening, and thank you for joining another Did You Know? Well, we're going to have a very interesting program this evening. I'm going to change up a little bit this evening because I have two entrepreneurs who's going to tell you their story and their journey. But before then, all of you know, I think it's so important that we become so involved in politics. And I keep telling everybody, if we don't do what we need to do in our community, then shame on us. So tonight, I took the opportunity that I have the fortune, I say the fortune, that I'm bringing somebody on tonight and they have their own little group. But the point is, I want them to tell you about the group, but I think that we have to start having these groups all over because we have to invest in our community. And so therefore, I wanted to bring someone so they can kind of tell you their story. I have the fortune of bringing on tonight called Power to the Hill. Now in Harrisburg, they got Allison Hill. So there's a group that's doing voter engagement, they're doing activity, citizenship, community action. So, but they're about power building in the community. So they're only doing Allison Hill, but it can be duplicated many places. And because the election's coming up in a couple of weeks, and you know how important that I feel about it, because if we don't elect people who care about us and responsible for the things that we do, then shame on us. Now, of course, this is a bipartisan group, and the reason it's bipartisan because it's nonprofit, and they want to get money from everybody. They want to get some money from the Democrats. They want to get some money from the Republicans. They want to get some money from the independents or whoever. So they have to balance it. That's okay. They can balance it because we're going to vote for who we think we should vote for anyway. So I'm fortunate. So tell us about Power to the Hill. Tell us who you are. There it is.
All right. Richard, thank you so much for allowing me to spend some time with you and your viewers and listeners. My name is Leta Beam, and I co-direct P2H, Power to the Hill. And as Richard said, we're a people-powered, all-volunteer, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. And we're headquartered right in the heart of the Hill. We're headquartered at Christ Lutheran Church, which is right a block off Dairy Street, if you're familiar with the area, Dairy and 13th Street. And what we do is really focus on voter engagement, voter education, active citizenship, and community action. So, what does that really mean?
Right.
So-
What does it mean?
Yeah. So voter engagement really is all about making sure that folks understand the voting process. Let's face it, it can be really complicated. I have spent 4 years now learning more and more about everything related to elections, and I'm still not sure. The other day, I just ran across something that I've never run across before. So it really is kind of a complicated sort of thing. And our mission, our simple mission, is to make voting easier and more rewarding for all of our neighbors across the Allison Hill community. And that's why we really are focused exclusively in Allison Hill. Why is that? Well, because we think we can actually make a difference. It's a smaller footprint. And we get to interact with our neighbors through our partnerships with churches in the area. We are at every event that there is in the Allison Hill community, whether it's a street festival, or last week we were at Harrisburg High for a town hall meeting on justice. Maybe some of you attended that or are following that story. And we build relationships and partnerships across the Allison Hill community. So sometimes we're out canvassing door to door in our street teams, our 2-person street teams, and we're knocking on people's doors. We're bringing the story of voting to them. And, they see our shirts, P2H, and they'll say something like, oh, you're the voting people. And that is so meaningful to us, because that's what we're fostering across the Allison Hill community, is those kinds of relationships where we really have earned the trust of our neighbors. We follow up, we do everything we can to help them to understand the voting process and to be really successful in voting.
Okay, why do you think, I'm curious, why do you think this is so important to form an organization like this?
Well, because I think voting is that first step to what we call active citizenship. And I think that turns into and blooms into community action. And that, I think, is the power. So I think once we really take that first step and really find it to be a little bit easier and a little bit more rewarding, because you can give Powder to the Hill a call if you have a question. They're going to drop off that form or come and sit by you and help you to figure out how to do things online. That they're going to educate you. And now our neighbors are asking, hey, can we have a house party? Can you come to our house, sit on our porch? I want to invite a few of my neighbors or friends over so that they can really hear things. So in general, I think it really is, voting is that first step. And then once you have, sort of that, almost it's like an equation. And first you take that first step, and then you feel much more like an active citizen. And then all of a sudden you're engaged in some community action. Our community action project for this year and next is called Light the Hill. So we're focused on the street lights across the Allison Hill community, because that's what our neighbors told us that they were interested in doing. And so
What you're saying is you see the importance of this organization, like you have Allison Hill. So if we have pockets, no matter where they are, whether they're in Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, but you're saying you have found community groups when they develop their own communities. Plus, like you said, you asked the community what they thought was important. They told you that street lights was important. So therefore, they had a vested interest of what they wanted, and they were able to communicate that.
that's exactly it. That's
So what
exactly
you're
it.
saying then, let me ask you, so what you're
Okay.
saying then is that people should be willing to duplicate sort of what you're doing, because voter registration or voter engagement has become so important. As we know, especially in Pennsylvania, all over the country, now they're starting to put all these restrictions up,
Indeed.
or attempting to put these restrictions up. So today it might be a little easier to vote, but tomorrow it might be a little harder. So therefore, you're saying the kind of organization that you have, it's important to get them engaged so that you can help them navigate through the system and make them more comfortable. Because I'm pretty sure as you walk the streets and whatever they'll say, you have people say, well, why should I register to vote? Why should I vote? My vote doesn't make no difference. It doesn't care because I hear it. I'm sure that you hear it. So you're saying you want to be around them so that they can kind of vent it to a person that they see in front of them.
Mhm. Well, when you think about it, organizations, we don't represent a candidate. We don't represent a party. We work all year round. We're not going to drop in and drop a flyer on your porch right before the election and expect to earn your vote. That's not who we are. So we're educating people. And let me say, and Richard, you know this year in Pennsylvania, there's an awful lot of change that we all have to navigate together. Legislative districts have changed. Congressional districts have changed. And in our Allison Hill community, at least two of our polling places will be changing between the primary election and the general election. And that's how we see ourselves really fitting in and creating some value for our neighbors. So if the polling place changes, we'll have a volunteer station at the old place. Good. That says, hey, you're looking for your polling place? Not here anymore. We know where it is and we've got you. We have a ride here and we'll take you over there. It's the little things that you do that help people to be willing and then move forward with voting. You show up and the polling place has changed with all the other things going on in your life. Wouldn't that feel frustrating to you? So that really is our job. And it might sound very, very small, but I think it makes a big impact, a big difference. And folks are more willing to trust us because we've been around and because we're doing good things and delivering on our promise to the very best of our ability.
Okay. Before you go off, I'd like you to tell my audience a few things that you think is very important that they should know. So you got it.
Okay, so we're in a sprint to the primary election now. Important date, May 17th. You can still apply for to vote by mail, but you need to really get on that. If you're registered, you can apply to vote by mail, but May 17th, one way or the other, make sure that you show up at your polling place or you do send in that ballot and follow every single instruction. All of those things matter. I also want you to know that this is a particularly important election cycle with competitive races in the primary. And for those of you who are listening from Pennsylvania, particularly our area in South Central Pennsylvania, sometimes people don't show up to the primaries because they're just not competitive. Richard, I know that you know that, but this time it's different. We have new legislative districts. We have folks interested in running. So make sure if you're sitting there saying, it doesn't really matter, there's only one candidate or one person, know that this year is very, very different. And finally, I'll just close with what we say at Power to the Hill regularly. Your vote is your voice. And I tell every person that I meet, you matter. You matter. So I think that's what I would like to end on, Richard.
Well, thank you. I will tell my audience this. Oh, we're going to be having these conversations all the way up. You just don't understand how important it is. The U.S. Senator for Pennsylvania is going to be very critical next year. Those of you who keep sitting on your hands and finding all these excuses for not to vote, I'm calling on you to step up to the plate now. Think about it. Ladies and gentlemen, think about it. And I'm going to leave you with this with her. Ha, ha, ha. I see there's a big controversy going on right now with the Supreme Court. Good, bad, or indifferent. But guess what? The president might nominate, regardless who the president might nominate
Absolutely.
The Supreme Court. But guess what? That's right. The U.S. senators are the ones who decide if they're going to sit on that court. So just think about that. Think about how the last Supreme Court judge was treated. Just think about it. Think about where we go from here. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm willing to tell you, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's a lot of changes that's going to be happening. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect your grandsons, your granddaughters, and it's going to have an effect generation after generation. So I'm going to be saying from now on, I'm going to be bringing it up. You're going to get tired of me talking about politics. Just like a lot of you get tired of me talking about, we got to step up in our community and do the things in our community for ourselves and stop waiting on somebody to ride on a horse to come into our community and make everything all right. It don't work that way. It works. We're going to have to step up and take care of our own community. So I want to thank you for coming on, and I'll have you on again. And
I'll look forward to it. And thank you so much.
You're
It was
welcome.
wonderful to be here.
I thought it was important
Thanks,
to have you
everyone.
on.
You
Thank,
bet.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Okay. All right. I thought it was so important to, I thought it was so important to have politics up because I think it's very important. And so I'm going to continue to do that. But now I got another guest coming up, and I got another guest. I got two guests on tonight. And all of you know I believe in telling our journey. I believe in us finding people that are doing all kinds of things because you may want to do those things. You may not be exposed to them, or you may not just know anything about them. So tonight I have two people on. I have two great people, and they're going to tell you their story. So the first one I'm going to bring on, he's sitting over here to the right of me, and I have another young lady, and she's on Zoom over there, and so she's going to talk as well. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to let each one of them tell you what they're about. Then we're going to do questions and stuff. So the first one I'm going to go on, and I'm going to go right to the one that's on Zoom. Home staging with Ambiance. Tell us how you came up with that name, your journey, and who you are. You got it.
Okay, my name is Schron Tyler. I'm a retired senior budget analyst for Northrop Grumman, which is one of the largest Department of Defense contractors. I decided to retire last July to jump into what my passion is, which is I have an eye for design. And how it really started for me, Richard, I lived in Hampton, Virginia for 28 years. I just recently moved back to Pennsylvania about 7 years ago. And I would do it as a hobby for friends and coworkers. Living near Virginia Beach and stuff like that, you would have a lot of rentals, Airbnbs and stuff like that. So I would do that just as a hobby. I moved back here and I found a home in York that was a fixer-upper. And so the realtor was very impressed with what I've done to the home. So she asked me to join her team as a stager. So that's how I got into this. But what made me really take a turn into home staging, because there's different areas of interior design, interior decorating. What makes me cater to home stagers is I love to see I love to turn a house into a home. I love when buyers walk into a home and they can look around, not at an empty home or a home that's very personal. They can see the vision. Only 5% of buyers can see a vision, naked eye, and just know what they're looking at in a home. Whether it's a seller's market, buyer's market, whether they buy quickly or sell quickly or whatever. The point is, the buyer really, except for 5%, does not see the house as a home. And my first client, most of my clients have been from people of color. And my first client didn't have the money to really stage it. So I staged it out. Well, she did pay me, but it wasn't much. And I staged it out of my passion. I didn't just come in there with a chair and a couch and a table. Anybody can do that and call it a stage. I really took time to pay attention to their home. And I have the gift of just knowing what it takes to put in that home for it to sell and for it to sell at top dollar, but to also give the buyer when they walk through that door, they say, okay, this is it. This is the home. I see the potential. And that's the way it happened. And so with that, Richard, I just see it as, like I said, it's just a passion. It's just turning a house into a home. It's the same analogy as when you want to sell a car. You sell a car out your driveway. What's the first thing you do when you know you're going to sell it? You're going to clean it up, right? You're going to make sure it looks its best. I don't care if it's a Utley or if it's a Mercedes. You're going to make sure it looks its best before you put that for sale sign in that car. Same thing with a house. Let your buyers see the full potential. And what it does for sellers is it brings multiple offers to the table. Now, I'm not saying that just staging alone, just really gets the seller over asking or just really does a lot. But what it does is it brings multiple offers to the table. So that way the seller has the opportunity of choosing.
Let me ask you this question. A lot of people probably said, what is staging? Why do you stage? Why should we do that? But I want you to answer that. But I also want you to answer why it's important to stage, and the other thing is why it's important for people to know who you are. And here's why I say that. I am totally convinced a lot of people would be a lot of things if they knew they existed. And because they don't know they exist, they don't have that vision. That's why I have these programs to bring somebody on like you on, so somebody can say, staging. Oh my God, I love to design my houses and I blah, 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 to give them the emotion and the passion to say, I can follow my dream.
Well, I'll say this. Again, sellers are looking to maximize their return on investment. And your biggest investment is your home. So when you can turn a house into a home, when you can give that buyer that vision, it happens for the seller and it happens for the buyer. It's a win-win situation. I am proud to say in this area that I know of, I'm not talking about all of Central PA, but in the area that I live, which is York, Pennsylvania, I am the only person of color that is a professional certified home stager that has opened my own business. And I'm not saying that there's not other stagers out there that, people of color, but the fact that I went through all the process of everything to really grasp the knowledge I need, because there's more to staging than just making a house beautiful. Again, you have to have a passion for it. I have a passion for it. I love staging in my community. That has really inspired me to take this even further, just to see that in our community, we need to deserve to have a part of the real estate. It is so big, it is so huge, it is so rich. I pulled up Harrisburg. I'm not picking on Harrisburg, but I happened to pull it up in my sense of networking. And I noticed out of all the areas in central Pennsylvania, Harrisburg had the most homes. Now, I didn't pull stats, just I'm going on what I seen, where they weren't staged. They had to take price cuts in order to sell. And this is a seller's market. So that really intrigued me. So that's what made me reach out. One day I just got in my car, drove to Harrisburg, and started handing out cards to every real estate agency in that area. And I happened to come across one that knew you and knew that I needed to be on this platform to hear my side of the story as to why I became a stager, and to also know that I'm here to help increase our community. If you stage one house and the comps is low in that house, and that house raises the comps in that area, it raises the value in that area, I think it sets the tone. It sets the tone in our community that the next house can look the same way, and the next house can look the same way. And before you know it, you got a whole block of, I won't say renovate or remodel, but just nice homes. And you bring in people in that community that can help build that tone and let it go forward, let it take off.
Okay.
We just don't have our piece of the pie in real estate the way others do. And it's there. It's
Right.
there.
I agree with you. That's why I have this program on, so people like you can tell your story and so people can understand. See, the problem in our community a lot of times is not that we can't do it or not that we don't even know how to do it, because we never vision ourselves of doing those kinds of things. And that's why I make this program the way it is. So I'm going to hold you for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna bring another person on, and then we're gonna have a rock and roll about what we're doing and what you perceive and what he perceives.
All right, now, we're here for it.
I have a young man on, and he has what he calls high fashion studio boutique called.
All right.
So I want him to come on and say who you are and what you're doing. And these are some of your designs, and tell us who you are.
Yes, sir. My name is Rafael Williams. I'm the owner and designer of London Clothing, also the owner of the Vault Clothing Store at 3525 North 6th Street in Harrisburg. Like I said, I'm a tailor and a designer, so I do a lot of tailoring work. But recently, my career has been going very, very well, and I get to design what I want, and things are very working out, from suits to clothing for artists. My wife, she also makes clothes. She does the women, she does gowns, dresses, wedding dresses, all sorts of things. And like I said, I just opened up a store about 5 months ago in Harrisburg. But again, I've been a tailor for over the past 7-8 years.
Tell me, what made you want to be a tailor? And then I want you to tell me what made you want to take this vision.
Okay. For me, I just wanted to do something in entertainment with life or just enjoy myself. So I ended up I was a stand-up comedian for a while. And I was actually offered a 25-week tour by Lonnie Love. But my son was growing so fast, I felt like I would leave for a weekend. I'd come back and he knew Spanish. And then also, I'm very in the church, and being in the comedy realm, it's a secular realm at times. There are a lot of drinking in bars, paying dues, and things of that nature. So I knew that's not what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do a form of art for a living. So I used to draw portraits, and I thought I was going to draw for a living, but then I thought, man, they don't make money until they die. It's the truth. So I literally one day thought about making clothes. I made a few t-shirts, screen print in high school, but I knew if I wanted to really take this up as a career, I had to teach myself how to sew. So about 7-8 years ago, I went to the thrift store and took apart a button up, and that's literally how I got started. And like you said, what made me choose this lane or path? I love art. I love what I do. And I think God has spoken to me. When you're really in tune and you're searching for your purpose or what you want to do in life, God answered my prayer. And like I told people they think I'm crazy, but he put the plan in my head for the next 15 years. Wow. And I've literally just been following that. And people are like, are you surprised? I am surprised about certain blessings, but I told you, he told me exactly where I would be and what I would be doing. And like, I'm blessed. I wake up every day and I design. You know, my kids get to watch it. My wife gets to make the women's clothes. We're on our own schedule somewhat. Support in Harrisburg has been nothing but amazing. That's how I ended up meeting you. Nice. You know, if you're really doing something right, this city will support you.
All right. Well, let me just say this. I kind of liked you because you said you was a tailor. And those of you who know me this growing up, my father was a tailor. That's what my father was all his life. And he went through, he first came way back when he left South Carolina and came to Pittsburgh. He decided he didn't want to work in the steel mill. And so he went to trade school to learn how to be a tailor. And until he died, that's what he did. That was his love. That was his passion. I would admit to you, he tried to mention to me a couple of times that I still want to go that profession, but I wasn't trying to go there. So I didn't want to go there because I didn't have the passion to want to go there to do that. Since I have you both on, what was the hardest part for you to continue to chase your dream? So you can respond first, and then I'll come to her next.
We all work or do something to pay bills so we could live, feed our family, or do what we need to do, which is a necessity. And like I said, I watched my parent. My dad is a deacon, and he's worked since the day I was born, and my mom also. They work very, very hard. I watched my mom run a business also, so I got to see a parent work, and I also got to see a parent run a business. And right where I'm at, I'm right in the middle with that right now. I put in the hard work, but I also know how to run a business. But you said the hardest thing. I mean, when I first started sewing, I went to my friends, my immediate friends, and I was like, I want to make clothes and be a tailor. And they didn't see that as a man's job, especially a Black man's skill. They actually called me a few statements, so on and so forth. But that was the first thing, and I brushed it off. And once I knew that didn't bother me, I was ready for the next step. The next step is, again, you're working a job and you want to make a living out of this. So I put lots of money into this over the few years. And I have a family, and I didn't make them sacrifice, but I did, because I could have went and got a regular job and bought them what they wanted and took them where they went. But over the past few years, it's been a struggling artist story from time to time, but I never let it get too deep with them. And I'm just grateful that they stuck with me. And that was a hard time too, when you're watching your family struggle, but you know what God told you. And you know, like God always shows me, like on the other end, if I call it the gray area, where I panic and get anxiety, but God always delivers. And so you're sitting there looking your wife in the face, your electric get cut off sometimes, food gets tight, don't even have gas to do things. And it was really tight. And I just prayed on it. I had the support of my wife, she made me feel like a king when I didn't have anything.
But you kept your vision.
Oh, most definitely. Through thick and thin, there was,
Okay.
you have to. What are you going to dedicate yourself to? And are you serious about it? And if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Well, that's a good point. So I'm going to lead in that. So if it was so easy, everybody would be doing what you're doing. So what about you? When you just said, you told people that you wanted to do home staging with the ambiance, what happened with you?
Oh, most people that know me know that I have an eye for design, so they weren't surprised at that part. What they were surprised at, Richard, is my choice to leave my job after almost 30 years. The key word is I retired. That's semi-retired. We both know that you can't pull out money without penalty if you are not over 59 and a half years old, and I'm not over that. So to step out and say, okay, on the paper, I'm going to retire, but there's no income coming in. I'm going to jump in this thing and I'm going to make it. My family thought I flipped my wig. What is wrong with you? Are you going through the change? Maybe no. I just know what my calling is, and I know what I love to do, and I've done my time with what I've done. But my biggest challenge that I thought maybe I would not face, because these areas are so diversified. I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which was always diversified. Even living in the South, you would think that I would come in this and not be as shocked. It seems to be a lot harder for me in this walk with home staging versus other home stagers in the area who don't look like me. And that is a tough pill for me to swallow, because I feel like I have to market myself harder. I have to network harder. I have to do all of these things to get leads, to get people, to get customers, to get that. And they don't. You hear their story. It's, oh, I knew somebody, or my husband's a contractor. So after he finishes what he does in these houses, I'm hired into stage. And then when they look at you and say, well, you don't have a lot of business yet? No, because I have to tread the waters. You don't have to tread the waters. I have to walk in those real estate offices and speak to what I do. And they look at me like I stepped out of space, because they're not used to somebody who looks like me walking in there and saying that that's what I do. And I'm still dealing with that. But like the young man said, God speaks, and he's telling me to stay steadfast, stay in it. And the fact that when you reached out to me that day, and that's when it let me know that he is really just telling me to be patient, because that was the day I was ready to throw in the towel. And then I got the call from you to say, no, hang in there. I'm going to bring you on a podcast. I'm going to put you on a platform. And I really appreciate that. And now, since you've opened that door, now there's other doors opening. I have the Women's Council over in Baltimore, because I also stage in Baltimore County. If you're on 83, whether it's from Harrisburg through Baltimore, that's my area. But I didn't realize it was so many other stages in the area. So the competition is out there. But again, I don't come across many that look like me. And that's hard for me to, a tough pill for me to swallow, because I just feel like if you have the skill set, you got the talent, why can't I just jump on board like everybody else? Why do I have to jump through all these hurdles?
I would love to tell you it shouldn't be this way. I would love to say to not only you two, but young people, whether that's in high school. I hate to do this, high school. I always say we got to be better. We got to do. That's not a real right thing to tell anybody, that you got to be better, because we all supposed to be at the same level.
Exactly.
But we know that's not the case. So therefore, it's my responsibility, and I've taken it on my own responsibility, to get people like you on, to not only tell what you do, but tell your journey, because I don't want people to think it's all that easy.
Yeah.
People, a lot of times they look at you and they think success is there. I mean, I've been very fortunate. I own my own business. I got my own magazine. Do I have my own podcast? Do I have that? But it wasn't always that way. As I shared with this young man, that my father was a tailor. My father had a cleaners at one time. He was an entrepreneur. And when the big companies came, he had to go and work in department stores and stuff. So I saw it as well. My mom worked there. She worked in the cleaners. Everybody had to pitch in. So I understand entrepreneurs struggle, but I am a believer of this. If we don't support each other, and if we don't create entrepreneurships and jobs and opportunities for people in our community, shame on us. It has nothing to do with racism. And I get upset when people try to tell me that. It has nothing to do with it. I'd rather for us to have an opportunity to generate wealth among ourselves in our community, and then we can reach out and help other people. Because if you become successful, he becomes successful, and everybody becomes successful, then we do economic development.
There it is.
And we
There
build
it
our
is.
own, we build our own houses. We build our own apartments. We do those things. Because one of the problems is, and I'm a true believer in this, economic development in the Black community is one of the most critical things that we need to deal with. But at the same time, we need to be about everything. There's more to us than just being barbers. I'm not knocking, or beauticians or whatever. There's nothing wrong with any of those things.
Rappers or ball players.
Rappers or whatever, basketball players, football players. We need, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with them. But we need some other people. We need some more Black male teachers. Yeah, we do. We need some more Black male teachers.
Ooh, tell me about it.
The other thing is we need everything. We're a multicultural group. So we need stagers. Now, I want to tell you, half the people don't even know what staging was, or if they didn't know what staging was, they didn't know anybody of color that looked like you. Now, I might have saw staging on TV, but I ain't gonna lie to you.
Right, HDTV, yes.
Yeah, but I didn't really, I saw it. Now, maybe, my family, they would know, but not me. But my family would know because they do all. But I want that young person who says, I got an eye for furniture. I got an eye how to put things. Now that gives them another opportunity of a career they may have never thought about. Like you said. Now, you said you told all your friends that you were going to be a tailor, and they didn't see it that way because they're not used to Black male tailors. Now, I can say that. Why do I know that? Because I know that's for a fact. My father was a tailor. And most African Americans were not tailors. That's just something that we did not do. Now, even now, if you take this town, you go around here, there's not a lot of African American tailors in Harrisburg, Pittsburgh, or wherever. There are tailors, but not us.
Yeah.
So we got to get exposed to it. You know, you're a designer, you want to create things. And my audience has been watching some of the pictures of some of the things that you guys have done. Very impressive.
Thank you.
Very impressive for both of you. See, because the first thing when I brought you on, the first thing they probably said, oh yeah, he didn't design this. Oh yeah, you know, she can't say, look at this. You guys got top shelf stuff that we got to support you, but we got to tell other people to support you as well. So I tell all the reals, they need to come see you. I don't care who you are, you need to come see you because that's your profession. So I'm going to ask you guys another question, because that's why I have y'all on there to tell your story. And you already told them it ain't been easy, because I know it has not been easy. But let me ask you, you took a risk, because you said you took a risk, and you said that you helped somebody out, even though you didn't make a lot of money. But one of the issues that comes back that bothers me and troubles me all the time, people say, how many clients you got? How many this, how many that? Well, if you don't give me the opportunity to get those clients, I'm behind the 8 ball.
Sure, sir.
It's like a job. You go for a job, 2 things usually happen to us. They either tell us we overqualified or we underqualified, but we never had the opportunity to get either one. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with it? Because you have to have something inside you to tell you that you're stronger and you're much more driven to make sure that you continue on the path that you want to go on.
Well, that's hard, because that's what I was feeling, just what you said. Well, you know, why am I going to go to these functions, or why am I going to go to, I don't have the leads that they have, or, you know, I get a client here, I get a client there. And it's hard, and it does eat at you. It's one thing if you don't have the skill set and you're trying to develop it, then you can understand it better. Well, okay, some people just don't like it. And, you know, I'm not there yet, and maybe I need to do things, not saying that even though I have an eye for design that I'm exactly perfect, but at the same time, when you know you have it, when you know you have every house that you've staged, and I get that it's a seller's market, so I won't take credit for all of it, but every house that I have staged, they have gotten well over asking, whether it's a $200,000 house down in the hood, or whether it's that $1 million house over there at the country club. Because I put my all into it. Again, like I said, anybody could put a couch and a table in the house and say they staged. But when you put your all in it, when you see your purpose and you see what you're trying to do, and you go above and beyond, it works out. And I will circle back to the family that didn't really know that much about staging, so it wasn't in their budget when they were selling the house, and I did the house anyway for hardly anything. Thank God they didn't live far from me, so it's not like I had accrued this huge moving expense and all that stuff. I did it. I did that. It took me 2 days. I laid that house out. After they sold that house, unexpectedly, like 3 weeks later, in the middle of the night, I just keep hearing my Cash App going off. And I'm like, well, what's that? You know, who's sending me money? I didn't, you know. She turned around and sent me 3 times more than what she gave me, what she couldn't afford me, because I did the job. I did it so well. They was that impressed. And she was like, you got to have that. You got to have it. The story with this house, there's a video out there, and I hope people are listening. If they go out on my webpage, they'll see the story. This house that you just pulled up, Richard, that's a house, a young man, that house, he only thought he was going to get $199,000 for. That's what it was going through before we came in there, got a fresh coat of paint, and I staged it. There's a video, it's a TikTok video, which shows you what it looked like before versus how you get to that. I didn't know it at the time, and my mother is my assistant, so we were staging together. And when we did the bed, the throw blanket over the bed, it came down in the form of an angel. And we thought, she said, what does that look like to you? I said, like the angel I used to make in the snow. And we just laughed it off. Well, my realtor called me after they got all the offers on the house. And when she showed it to the son, she didn't tell me that his mother lived in that house and that the mother had passed on in that room. in that bedroom. She probably knew if she told me that, I probably been like, I'm not going in there stage enough. But she told me that. And she comes back to me so emotional. I said, well, what's wrong? I thought she was going to say he didn't. And she was like, he loved that house so much, he cried. And I said, okay, but still, she didn't tell me that the mother passed. I said, so he said, I wish my mom could see this house. And so she says, I said, well, why didn't you get his mom? I'm thinking she's at a retirement home or something, you know. This is the house. And he says, and she said, no, sure, I didn't want to tell you, but she passed away. And so I said, okay, that explains why my mother kept saying this house has a piece to it. And when we did the blanket with Angel, my mom was like, that was his mother's way of letting us know that she really appreciated what she did. So my mother had said to him, she saw it. She saw it. She let us know through this blanket. It gave me chills. And that's when I came up with the name Home Staging with Ambiance, because every house that I've touched, it's not just about staging. If you have the passion, and I'm sure there's maybe other stagers out here listening to me, or realtors listening to me that have dealt with stages. When you can give a room an ambiance, when you can give it where that buyer walks in and say, this is it. This is it. I don't need to see another house. This is it. Because of the ambiance, it's not just the decor you put in, it's the ambiance, it's the energy you bring in there with it. And it has made me successful in this way. Now, you know, I'm still trying to get business, still trying to learn other realtors, but the one that I deal with, she won't use nobody else but me. She don't care what my price is, if I got to come to Baltimore for her, or if I'm staging in Central PA for her. Because of that, I have contributed to $2.5 million of sales for her in 1 year, just from my staging.
Okay. All right, now I'm gonna turn to my man over here. So I'm asking you basically the same question. So what drives you? What made you? What your creativity that you knew you took your creativity to do some of your things? And then what we're going to do, I'm gonna have you talk about that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm gonna give each of you, time be flying here, see?
It does.
And then I'm gonna give you each 3 or 4 minutes to not only articulate what you want to articulate, but also, you know, you might want to tell them your telephone number and your email or whatever, so they can contact you. But what we've done tonight is very interesting, because we've shown your houses and we've shown some of your clothing.
Yeah.
So show some.
My drive is, like I said, I watch my mom do business, and I really, really speak to God and pray a lot. And a lot of people don't know, when COVID first hit, I had just quit my job right before everything went down. And everything came to a halt. My money came to a halt, everything. I wasn't receiving any money. And then all of a sudden in the mail, I got a $1,200 stimulus check. It was around January. And I was working on clothes, doing pop-ups. And I prayed again. And I swear, God told me to go to Atlanta. Oh, wow. And I was like, all right. So my friends are sitting there. It's like 2:30 in the morning. I said, I'm going to Atlanta on Thursday. They said, but you didn't speak to anybody. I said, I know. But God's telling me, have faith and go to Atlanta. And like, are you crazy? I said, no, I'm going to leave on Thursday. My one friend rushes out the house. I said, where are you going? He said, I got to go spend time with my wife. I'm coming with you. You have that look in your eye. And then my other friend was like, he's like, you didn't talk to nobody? I said, nope, I'm just going to go. And and sure enough, he hopped in the car too. They just didn't know. They had a feeling. My wife, we were kind of bumping heads about that, because, you know what I mean, I didn't have much more money. I literally had that $1,200 from the stimulus check. And she fully didn't understand what I was doing at that time. So even when we left, I bumped heads. I get to Atlanta. I speak with a few acquaintances I had. I literally just go roaming around praying. On the third day I was there, third or fourth day, nothing had came about. I literally started breaking down, crying. It was a Sunday. I called my dad, he prayed for me. I called my wife, she spoke to me, she prayed for me. I literally said to myself, I was like, I'm going back to my hotel room. I can't take it right now. I'm just going to take a nap. And I was like, I trust you, God. I woke up. An artist had called me, and I ended up going directly to his house, making clothes within his mansion. There's a place called Exclusive Game. He's like the Dapper Dan of the South. All the celebrities come to his store. They called me right after that and offered me a pop-up in his store. Wow. Yeah. And then one of the guys, he used to do the production for G Unit Clothing. And I purposely went into his store.
Wow.
I come back 2 weeks later to do the pop-up. I had to pay them $1,500. Mind you, I was gambling. I came back. I sold as many clothes as I could. I did a few pop-ups to get the money to go back. I get the money to go back. The morning of my pop-up, I had less than $20 in my pocket, and I'm stuck in Atlanta. I started to start crying. I go outside. I call my mom on the phone. She said, you always do this, and God does what? I said, work out. I said, all right, I got to be calm through the gray area. I literally, and I lied to you not, I walk back in. I sit down on the bench. I look up. I'm still a little down, but I say, God, I trust you, and I'm going to show you I trust you. So I start putting up little ads on Facebook. I lie to you not, less than a minute later, this lady next to me taps me on my leg, and I look over at her. I'm like, why is your mouth moving? Close your mouth. It was my favorite artist, Benny the Butcher, was standing in front of me, holding my clothes. He just got signed to Def Jam the week before. And
Wow.
couldn't believe it. Like, I almost passed out. I'm going to fly. I know how to hold myself in front of celebrities. Mind you, my favorite rapper is literally standing in front of me, holding it. I thought I was dreaming.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was crazy. He buys 2 jackets from me, and it was like, he was my first sale. The floodgates broke open. I made almost $6,500 that day. He ended up taking my jacket. Mind you, I do that. I come back home 2 weeks later. My cousin calls me. He's like, Benny the Butcher had your jacket. I said, yeah, it was 2 weeks ago. He said, no. He wore it to his pre-album release party, and it was everywhere. And then I just been pushing since then. Like, after that happened, I ended up spending 30 days in New Orleans trying to get a contract that fell through. I learned a lot of lessons about money wasted and so on and so forth. But literally after I prayed and talked to God, went to Atlanta, offered prayer, didn't speak to anybody, got the deal, came back, did the pop-up, met my artist. Nothing can stop me, you know?
That's what's up.
Like, I literally had $16 in my pocket. I was gonna call my mom to get home the next day, call my wife, told her I failed.
Wow.
They're like, when you have a husband and you have a wife and they trust you with the leadership of your family, the last thing I was gonna say, hey, love, I tried and I failed. Oh my gosh, that was burning up my spirit. And just to be able to, like, God is real. Have faith. You got to put on your faith of, I call it a crazy cat, because the rest of the world is telling you no. And even your parents sometimes are telling you no because they only want success.
So this is your stuff.
All of my stuff, I handmade.
Everything that's flashing on the screen is your stuff.
It's handmade from scratch. And now I got a store. 2 years ago, I was making stuff at the end of my bed in my house. And everybody thinks it's overnight. I've been doing this for 7 years. If I chose to go to school to be a doctor, I would be a doctor by now. So I consider myself a doctor of clothing.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes to say whatever you want to say, but also you got to tell people how to reach you, and I'm gonna have him flash back some of your staging.
Oh, you talking to me, Richard?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Okay. First of all, let me let you know what services I provide, which is pretty much everything from consultations, because sometimes certain houses, especially people who actually live in their homes until they sell, they just want you to come in and just give them some pointers, you know, what to do to kind of declutter the house and depersonalize it and open up your space. So I offer consultation. I offer occupied staging. I offer vacant staging. I do commercial, and I also do interior decorating projects. A lot of the realtors clients that I stage for would turn around and hire me to help them interior decorate their new home. So those are the services I offer, and my webpage is exactly my business name. I'm very simple, homestagingwithambiance.com. But make sure you spell it as ambiance and not ambience. Everybody calls me, I can't find it because they tried to spell it as ambiance. And that's actually my kitchen. The first picture is my kitchen. I should have put a before or out of there because that kitchen looked nothing like that. Nothing like that. And so again, it's homestagingwithambiance.com. Once you go into my webpage, if you go down to the bottom, you can click into my Facebook and my Instagram. I just started really getting into TikTok, so I have a few before and afters on TikTok, so you can see some of my work. My prices are reasonable. I don't really discuss prices out in public. Each house is different. Right. So that's something I discuss with the realtor and the seller, but I'm pretty reasonable. I'm fair. Again, because I don't do it for that. I do it for the passion. I love what I do. This is my dream. This is something I've always wanted to do. And I finally took the chance, jumped out there on faith, and here I am.
Yes.
That's very good. Well, your turn, sir.
Oh, yes. Paris Raphael Williams, London Clothing. I have a store in Harrisburg in Susquehanna Township, 3525 North 6th Street. I do custom garments. I tailor and also make suits from scratch. My wife there, she does all the women's garments and dressing, and we do tailoring to personal garments. So whether it's your jeans, pants, you lose weight and you need everything tailored down, or any of your tailoring needs, please come see us, 3525 North 6th Street.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to come see you because I lost a few pounds. So maybe you can check them in for me and make me look a little more, better.
Oh, most definitely. That's what I do.
That's what you do.
That's what I do.
Well, I just want the audience to understand that's what this whole program's about. Bringing people in to tell their story, to tell their dream, to tell their vision. And the part I like about this, we're all alike. We're all the same.
Yes.
As a conversation, I'm sure the audience realize we all the same. And I think it's important because one of the things that I think is probably more important, entrepreneurs have to talk to entrepreneurs. People who have vision and who have dreams about business have to talk about people. And the reason I say that is because the rest of the people say, forget your dream and go get a job and work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
One of the things that I will say, even though my father, other people's, especially in my era, I'll say in my era, they told us to go to college and get a degree or whatever. I think, and I look back at it, we probably should have been talking about entrepreneurship more than we had.
Yes.
We probably should have. That's number one. Number two, we probably should have did a better job of supporting one another. Because everybody still has that excuse about grabbing the bags and that. And, if I tell people, you go to a store and if you go in the store and you get bad service, most of the time you go back and give them a chance. If you go to a black store, you have a bad chance, you don't come back usually because we're hard on ourselves. And we have to get over that. We have to get over being hard on ourselves. We do. Because sometimes it's a learning curve for us because we were not in the situations to do. When people talk about wealth, one of the things people don't never talk about wealth is that a lot of wealth is generational wealth. They already had the wealth. The daddy had it, the other daddy had it, the grandpa had it, now blah, blah. When usually we're the first that have wealth.
Yes.
And so since we're the first, hopefully you want to carry it on to the next generation, but we're the first ones that have wealth. And people have to understand that. And I'm hoping that the audience, we got to go out and tell our story, but we got to tell people who all these different people are. That's why I have them on. Now, half of you out there probably saying, oh, Ambiance, staging. Now staging can help you get more money for your house. Yeah. But maybe you did not know that. Or maybe you can work with her. We got to help each other out because you figure we help her out down the road. Your daughter or your son may want to be a stager and they'll have an opportunity because they'll be able to build from somebody that looks like them. You, sir, I will say to you, you have a passion, you have a dream. I know about somewhat creativity because my father would take, amazing to me, now he did go trade school and all that, but amazing to me, he would take a drawing and could sketch out and then make the suit or whatever based on that.
That's me.
So, I kind of like you a little extra because, but my father was a tailor. And most people in Pittsburgh knew my father and he did it to the end. That's what he did.
That's why I chose it.
So I just want to say to the audience tonight, I hope that all of you got something from this, but we got to support one another. So I hope that many of you, which I know for a fact, is going to check them out just to make sure that they are what they say they are. And I can tell you they are what they say they are because that's how we are. We're going to go back and make 3 references where everybody else be except for 1 reference. That's just how we are. I'm not saying it's right, wrong, but that's how we are.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll give them some business. And then we'll give them some business, and then they'll be able to hire other people. And before you know, we will be able to create our own destiny. So I want to thank all of you for listening tonight. I hope that some of you out there who's been, oh, I want to get in business. Maybe it'll give you the hump to get in business, because if we don't have entrepreneurs in our community, then shame on us. I look up whether it's, I can call the cities, whether it's Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, whether it be Stilton, whether it be little towns where we used to have stores and shops. But people we don't have those anymore. We do have some businesses that pop up, but we got to support them. And if we don't support them, then shame on us. So I hope that we got something from that tonight. So home staging with the Ambiance, the Vault, please support both of them. And thank you for tuning in tonight to my program. And I hope you got something from it, because that's what it's about. Did you know? So thank you and good evening.
Thank you, Richard.
Show on the Voice 17104. We will be here on the Voice 17104 every first and third Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
That was dope.
Once again,
That was pretty good.
Remember to
Good at what
visit
you
us
do.
on Facebook at Richard Utley.
You're good at what you do. I love this.